Hello.
Hey, Charles.
How are you? Oh, I need the bank rejected my wire. I don't know if you saw it. Because it's over $10,000, they need an address.
Yep. I saw you send me that picture. You want the address and stuff. I'll send that over.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that you don't think I'm holding your money or anything. But on the Signal Profits thing, I kind of still want to get with you to kind of understand what you're doing on the Stripe side with that bot or whatever, or what I need to get to you. And it seems like the posts are intermittent. Like sometimes they miss them, sometimes Jacob doesn't. I don't know if he uses the wrong bot or something or whatever on that front.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's not.
Just trying to make my last few notes here.
Oh, that's fine. What's the agenda? What do you want? What are your talking points?
It's the market, right? So market update, markets, markets crashed last week. I'm trying to type a couple bullet points up here. I'll send them over.
That's fine. Yeah, why don't you just throw them in the thing? We can talk Tom Brady. You watch football at all?
You know what? I typically am a football fan, but this year I have not watched any football. I didn't watch one game. I've been traveling. I've been out of the country. I haven't even watched one game. What happened with Tom Brady?
Well, he once again pulls off another winner against the Jaguars.
To go to the Super Bowl?
Yep. And then more surprisingly, the Eagles went to town.
So it's the Eagles and the Pats?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a football fan, but I just I've been so out of the loop.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Foles, where's he been all of it? Who the fuck is he? Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
What's going on?
So who will be the Nick Foles of the crypto world?
Oh, is that what we're discussing?
Oh, we're talking. I don't know if you watched the NFL, but there were a few surprises. I think most notably was the Eagles just kind of tearing the Vikings apart.
I haven't watched any games in weeks. I have no clue what's going on. None. I hear the Patriots are winning.
The Patriots.
I don't like the Patriots, so not a Patriots fan.
Yeah, no, I get it. Also, hey, Mark, I'm queuing up an interview with the CEO or the guy in charge of Dash for Thursday. I suspect you'll want to be on that one, but I'll let you know.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that list of people?
It's good. We have to actually, now that we're here, we need to solidify a time rather than going back and forth. I would propose we schedule I don't know if it's 2 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever. We schedule a time, and then that he will go fill in the slots with people from the list. So we say, okay, Tuesdays at 1 or Wednesdays at 3 or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So if we want to, is there a day or two? Oh, so Dr. V, we've got this PR guy that's doing outreach for us in terms of getting influencers or experts to interview.
Very nice.
And given the volume of stuff that he'll bring in, my suspicion would be we should just schedule a time, 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and then, do our best to make it, knowing that maybe not all three of us will be able to make it.
Sure. Absolutely. That's wonderful.
So is there a day or 2 days that work, or 3 days that work well? The list was pretty extensive. He had like 50 people to start.
That's amazing. Yeah. Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays work well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Come March, any day will work. But Wednesdays, Fridays work.
How about you, Mark?
What days work good for me to do that call?
Yeah, or just these are just like slotted calls for that list that will get filled, and occasionally there might be like, if we get like Charlie Lee or something, we might have to like schedule something around that,
I mean, I guess Wednesday or Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I mean, we already do Monday, Friday, so maybe put it on Wednesday, but any of those days would be okay for me.
And do you guys want to just aim for like early afternoon, say 1 Central? That's still early for you though, right, Mark? Or is that doable? Is that better, more doable for you?
Mark?
How about we put it at 10, what did you say, 1 Central?
Yeah, I can do it. We can do morning too.
No, 1 Central is good.
Works for me.
Okay, I'll get something set up and figure out if we do this like through Eventbrite or some scheduling thing for the other guy. So we'll figure that out. Okay, cool. Did you list out some talking points, Mark, or are you gonna kind of?
Yeah, I'll send a couple things right now.
Yeah, and then I'll get our live going.
Did you already start a Facebook group chat between the three of us?
Yeah, there's one. I'll say hi. So it gets to the top.
Got it. Feeling better, Mark? You look better.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was horrible. I was so sick.
It's
crazy. My family, like we eat super healthy and stuff, and like we never get sick, like literally years and years without getting sick. And
wow.
We've been traveling out of the country for the last couple of months.
That will do it.
Well, we went home for Christmas, and California is like ground zero for the flu, I guess. And man, I mean, it's just got us. But it went through us one by one.
Oh.
Instead of like all of us getting sick at once and just being done with it, it's like it literally dragged on since Christmas. One of us has been sick, and anyway, I was the last one, and it was so bad. I literally went to my wife and my oldest daughter, and I apologized to them. I was like, I am so sorry. When you guys were sick, I didn't understand how bad it was.
Oh, man, Mark.
Oh, my God, it was the worst thing ever.
Well, I'm glad you're better, man. We've been lucky, too. We eat pretty healthy as well, and trying to stay healthy. So far, so good.
Would it be related to Zika, you think, or is this completely...
No, I mean, it's an epidemic in the United States. California is like the worst. Like the hospitals are literally clearing out like utility closets and storage closets to put and setting up tents outside to put more just so the hospitals can bring in more people.
Yeah.
And I had read, I don't know, like a week or two ago, like typically they'll have like 8 to 10 deaths, and they already had like over 47 deaths of people under 65.
Yeah, it's bad this year. It's really bad. I've never had the flu shot, I won't get that shit.
No, I don't get that either. I don't believe in that.
I don't believe in it either. They're all trying to kill us, man. Easy to eat healthy in Hawaii, well, outside of the pork. Actually, I guess you guys do eat. Native Hawaiian food can be pretty, certainly pretty porky, but lots of fruit and fish. That's the way to go, man.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna send through a couple points here. The market's still sliding. It's gone down. Regulations keep popping up as of last week. Some countries going more favorable, some countries going less favorable. And then the big news is the Bitcoin futures first contracts expired.
Yeah.
What that means.
You know what you should also add in? There's another interesting current event. The Portuguese Consumer Protection Agency actually is suing one of the banks for what the fuck is it? For like discriminating against like banks blocking crypto transfers.
I didn't read that.
Or I don't know if it's oh wait, hold on. Let me show you this article. I'll slack this to you guys.
Portuguese?
Maybe not suing. It calls out. Okay. Well, this is a good starting point. Let me get us ready to broadcast and go live.
Yeah, I'll just chip in on these. Mark, you can carry most of these.
I'm sure we'll all have opinions.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let me just finish typing this up. Okay, let's get ready. We are going to go live in 3. Oh, hey, Mark, you want this on Block United?
No.
Okay, we are going live in 3, 2, and 1. We are live right now. Hey, guys, it is Monday. How's everyone doing?
Doing great.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So,
yeah, I guess.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say, yeah. I guess. I guess we're here another week.
That's
more
right.
of the kind of more of the same that we had last week. I guess is what we're looking at.
Bitcoin sliding, shut down.
Well, would it be more of the same?
Progress?
Would it be more of the same? I know last week it was sliding, but there was a bit of a market correction. I think Monday it was, Bitcoin was still at like 13,000, right? And then it really went down, and then it came back a bit.
Yeah, last week started it all, right? So like last Sunday, a week ago, yesterday would have been kind of, or I guess it was all the way back to the previous Sunday, Monday, when the market was still doing pretty good. It wasn't really until Tuesday until it really started selling off. So about a week ago is when it started selling off bad, and the overall market ended up dropping 48%, which is pretty massive. I think I was kind of at first like, it's kind of just like an average, kind of moderate correction, but I would say average kind of would be more in the 30% range. So 48% is definitely considerable for sure. By any other market, it's catastrophic, right, Doc? I mean, for cryptos, it's above average. For any other market, it's like the end of the world.
The world is ending.
Yeah, the world is ending. So it's funny how. We expect different things. We're used to different things.
Right.
To say a 30% correction is average is just crazy in other markets. But yeah, 48%. Yeah, that's world-ending correction.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, right? A 30% market correction is just like the rule of thumb. But on the flip side, you got to look at the ups too, right? 100% increase in a week or two for a coin again is also kind of just business as usual in this world.
Yeah, this is true.
You kind of got to take both sides with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to take both sides, and that's one thing that I've always said is that, I mean, you can't get in hoping to make the upside without the risk of the downside. I mean,
That's right.
everything in investments, everything in life is sowing and reaping and risk versus reward.
That's right.
The greater your risk, the greater your rewards, and it's definitely true in this market.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, we did rebound back so Wednesday being the low point last week, like I said, 48% down, and then we bounced back 32%. So had dropped from 830 billion to 428. So about half, and then from 428 got back up to 633. So it was a pretty amazing bounce back. It's funny, anybody who's been in the investing world for long enough knows that there's a saying, and it's called the dead cat bounce. And what that means is that we have like trend lines. And so we expect, the market to be trending up or the market to be trending down, depending on which way it's going. And it usually will follow a trend line. And what happens is sometimes it never follows a trend line smooth. So it's always zigging and zagging around the trend
Not
line.
linear.
The further it gets off of the trend line one direction, the further it's going to correct off the trend line in the opposite direction. But what happens is what we call this dead cat bounce, which is what we saw. And that's basically when the market free falls so fast. Like I said, the farther and faster it gets off that trend line to the downside, it bounces, and it's called a dead cat bounce, because if you were to take a dead cat and drop it from high enough, it's gonna bounce.
That's gross, Mark. That's real gross.
I didn't come up
You
with
didn't
it.
make it up, I know.
I didn't come up with it. It's been around in the investing world much longer than I have been. But for people that are hearing that, I mean, that's basically what it means, is when things fall far enough and fast enough,
It will bounce.
And so we saw that. We saw choppiness, the rest of the week. So, for those of you guys don't know, prices are always set in real time between buyers and sellers. And so when the price gets high enough, people are like, oh, shoot, I'm going to start selling. And then it sells down until it gets low enough where people are like, oh, I'm going to start buying. And they start buy. They buy it up, and then they sell it down, they buy it up. And so the rest of the week kind of saw that action, that seesaw action going on. And the buyers and the sellers were competing, and nobody could really regain the market. And so we were pretty tentative last week, still thinking that, it was just too shaky to really make an opinion. We have two ways to look at the market if we want to make it super simple, and that's really fundamentally, like, what are the laws, what are the rules, what's going on, the technology. Those are like fundamental reasons. And then we have technical reasons, and that's just looking at the charts. That's looking at the way the charts are moving up and down. That's the buying pressure, the selling pressure, etc. And so fundamental kind of tells us where we're going in the future, like far out in the future. Technical analysis kind of tells us what's going on today.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell the future, it just tells us what's going on. And so we could see it consolidating and bouncing around, and it tells us that the market is in a very touchy place, and it could either crash more or it could go higher, but there's no clear direction. And so we were kind of waiting and waiting and waiting. I think we said on Friday that, we still thought, even though it looked like it was recovering, we still thought like a touch to 8,000 or 9,000 for Bitcoin was kind of realistic. And at this point today, I think that's even more realistic. And if not, maybe even down into the sevens.
Where are we today? Where's the coin right now?
I think it's like 10.9 the last I checked before we jumped on.
I think it could drop to as low as 7 or 8 or 9, you think?
Well, I had been saying 8 or 9. It's at 10.5 as we speak right now.
Wow.
I had been saying I've been saying 8 or 9 for months. I mean, I said that back in December, I had before Bitcoin had crossed 10,000, I had said that it was going to go to 25. We actually raised the buy up to 25 on it. But then I had said on video multiple times, I thought we could see the 8 or 9 before the 25. So that's kind of where we're at. But like I said, yeah, now, I mean, shoot, just based off of the technical indicators, it looks like it could even drop below 8. But that doesn't change my fundamental view, which is that I still see 25,000. So I know it sounds wishy-washy, but we just interpret things as we see them, and that's what's going on.
Oh, wow.
I was surprised that so we know the government shutdown is real. It's happening. I was expecting a bounce from that. And we did see a little bounce, I guess. It's still hard to call.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of people were in agreeing with you on that. I wasn't sure. I was kind of like, didn't really want to make a call on that. I wasn't sure which way it would go. I thought it could go either way. Why did you think it would bounce based off of
I think just going back to the fundamentals of, what cryptocurrency stands for, anti-government, hands out of my pocket, and just the instability around this government, this political scene. So I didn't expect much with stocks because I believe the shutdown will be pretty much in and out. I think it'll be quick. I don't think it will persist. So we know how to price stocks, right? It's a function of changes in cash flows, expected cash flows. I don't think anything's going to be impacted by the stock market. But fundamentally, I thought crypto would bounce as, the pundits say, well, see, we told you so. You can't trust government. They're all a mess. You got to put your money here. Screw the dollar, So expecting a little, nothing major, but a little pop.
Yeah. What day was that? Was that Thursday?
No, I think it went
shutdown.
There actually was a bit of a pop. The shutdown occurred. I think it was it Friday midnight?
It was Friday.
It was midnight on Friday.
Yeah. So we peaked on Saturday.
Yeah. And see, that's what Let me see what.
Yeah, so you can literally see it go on Friday evening as it got closer and closer to shutdown.
Yeah. Yep.
There definitely was wow. Actually, there was a pretty significant.
Yeah, there was a pop. Yeah.
It peaked on Saturday. So maybe that was part of it. I thought it could go either way. I wasn't exactly sure, but I think more opinions were agreeing with you, Dr. V, on that positive price movement. I can see that that argument, and I agree with you, and I think that is the valid reason why it would have, if in fact it did cause that. I think that ideology wise, that is exactly why Bitcoin was formed, and that is exactly why the early adopters, the innovators, got into the market. I think over the last couple of months, the people getting in are chasing the mighty dollar.
Oh, absolutely. I said that the last meeting we had. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and we did talk about that, where we thought that's really what helped cause the market to slide as bad as it did, because of all these early adopters that didn't get in for a reason. So the early, what we call the tinkerers and hobbyists that always get into any new asset class or technology first, they got in for an ideological reason. Right. And those people, they're not going to just sell because the price went down, right? That they've got in for a reason.
Right.
But it's kind of like if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So you get you guys that come in with no reason.
Right.
Chasing money, so when the money goes down, they're gone.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely.
So that probably had something to do with it. I think overall, though, I don't know. Maybe I'm just I was one of the early adopters for a reason, but maybe I'm a little bit jaded. But I mean, the government shut down. Yeah, whatever. Like we've heard, like how many times have they almost shut down? And then it's like, okay, now they're shut down. Like, what does that even mean to me?
Yeah,
like,
I don't think it means anything. I mean, I think if we look at the history, I read an article this weekend. If you look at the history of shutdowns, they really haven't impacted the markets. And there's only really been 2 others that have lasted more than a day.
And we're talking about the market, but I mean, if we want to get a little bit off topic, like, what does it even mean in general? Like, I would almost bet that I bet that most of Americans are kind of like, good. Good. You know, like
Less people on the roads, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing too, and maybe this is where we get a little, U.S. centered. The crypto markets aren't U.S. focused.
Right.
I mean, there's more going on in South Korea than there is in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, and it's actually super important, Charles, to go back to that because you're right. You know, we do think about it in those terms, and the United States is a small percentage of the total global market, and so that was a point that I brought up on our last call, which is when we're looking at like regulations and things like that, we have to remember. And also when it comes time to think about like privacy coins and decentralized exchanges, just because we don't see the need for them in the United States doesn't mean there's not a global need for that. So yeah, great point. We have to think globally. And, I've been traveling around the world over the last year. I've always been, but I've been actually on the road a lot. And one thing I've always noticed when I'm traveling internationally is that people from other countries travel a lot, and it seems that you don't see a lot of Americans out there. And I think it's because most Americans are so focused on America, and just we live in the best place, and this, we're the king country, and blah blah blah, and they don't really look at the rest of the world. Whereas I feel like the rest of the world does look at the rest of the world more. So anyway, I think
Mark, I would absolutely agree with you. I too have traveled the world. That is my advice. I've been everywhere, and you don't see as many Americans. Maybe in the real popular, large European, cities, Paris, London, you see Americans here and there. You go across, and actually, if you follow the news in other countries, you'll see that you get a worldwide perspective in other countries when you listen to their news, when you watch their news. We don't get that here. So we tend to have a very narrow scope.
So expanding on this isn't crypto related, but this is more international related. My younger brother works for Boeing. Obviously, everyone knows that Boeing, they make airplanes. But they had their big kind of, state of the state meeting, that he attended. So like, anyone who's like in leadership or, an up and comer goes to these things. And what's interesting is, Boeing, which is one of probably like the most American, I don't want to say the most, but like known as like a major American company, their initiative is in 5 years, they're going to be 60% international. Their market share, they're just like, we're not going to get the growth in the US. We're going to be selling airplanes to China, to Zimbabwe, to Brazil, or I don't know about Zimbabwe, but, just all these international countries. And they're like, well, when we say 60% international, that means, today of the, 100,000 Boeing employees, 80% of them are here. 5 years from now, there's probably going to be less people in the U.S. and we're going to have offices, all over the place.
All over the place, yeah.
That's just the reality of the market. So, let's, we can probably go on and on again about like how maybe the U.S. is a declining superpower and how, Russia's going to take over the world or China is or something on that. But let's like kind of get that.
We don't need to get into that though. Yeah. But I think the point is valid though, that we just do need to think to be successful. I think in business, in life, outside of crypto, it's important to have a worldview. And I think definitely within this space, it's even more important because it's a global market. So just always keep those things in mind. But some of the things that were happening or are happening globally is, I've seen some positive things and I've seen some negative things. So, the positive things are, we've already seen Japan make Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies legal tender. We've seen Australia do the same thing. Switzerland is done the same thing. Switzerland is becoming, they actually have what they call like the crypto valley. And they're becoming like the hub in the world for all these cryptocurrency companies. And they say that it's probably, instead of just keeping like crypto valley, they want to be like a crypto nation. So a lot of just really positive stuff coming from Switzerland, like I said, even Japan, Australia, but Belarus is now throwing their hat in and saying they're a fully legal crypto nation as well. So there are places that are going super, super positive. then we have still, people going down the opposite path. So India now is coming out and saying they want to regulate it more, and that they're going to they want to close accounts or limit or regulate accounts that are connected to type of crypto exchange. And India is not a massive player in the crypto space, but I think they have like the biggest population in the world.
They have the people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mark and Charles, what do you think of this? The IMF just increased their growth prospects, their global growth projections. So they said for 2017, I think it was like 3.7% growth globally, which is the highest high since I think about 2011, and they're projecting even more growth, higher rate of growth this year and next year. What do you think that does for crypto, given how global cryptocurrency market is? I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like looking at the market from a fundamental standpoint,
Right.
I think there's, we have 2 billion adults in the world that have no access to banks. So right there alone, that's super strong bullish for cryptocurrencies. We have the emerging markets, which are over $12 trillion. And so they're moving in. So there's definitely bullish things there. But it's going to be new. It's new. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a battle going back and forth, and we'll see what happens. I think the one thing that we'll see though is, as I've said, I thought the big trend for this year would be regulations, and so the two biggest sectors I see would be privacy coins and decentralized exchanges. And so we're starting to see more and more decentralized exchanges popping up already this year. I mean, and we're so new into the new year, but already a lot of new projects have been popping up. And there's a new protocol, this 0x protocol, that's powering all these decentralized exchanges, and it's really helping to kind of breed this new technology. And I'm sure most of you guys are aware, there's, you can store your Bitcoins or whatever coins you have on your Coinbase exchange. You can keep them on your crypto exchange, or you can put them like into a hardware wallet. And so really there's like two good hardware wallets, Ledger and Trezor. And Ledger now is working with these decentralized exchanges where you can trade peer-to-peer directly from your hardware wallet. So that's big news. That was really cool. And so I think that trend is going to start happening more and more. Kind of like how Bitcoin, nobody can shut Bitcoin down. There's no office, there's no CEO, there's no mainframe. It's like the internet. The internet cannot be shut down, and Bitcoin cannot be shut down. So what the government can do is they can stop allowing banks to let you put money into Bitcoin. They can stop exchanges where, if you want to exchange your Bitcoin for another coin, they could freeze that or steal that or whatever they want to do. But if we go to a decentralized exchange, like Bitcoin is decentralized, then peer-to-peer, we can exchange without anyone being able to stop it, censor it, freeze it, manipulate it, or whatever. So
well, that's actually probably, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you look at what happened, what was it, a couple months ago? Coinbase lost the lawsuit to the IRS. So the IRS is, controlling Coinbase. And I guess, yeah, if I'm the government, okay, everyone's got their money. I can't regulate them. But if I can control the point of exchange in terms of where people have to come in to trade their Bitcoin into Dash, or their Dash into Monero, or their Monero into Steam, or whatever other alt I want to do, if I can lock those down, that effectively still gives me control, right? So now what we have is people are, I guess, one step ahead, knowing that, seeing what's going on with Coinbase and some of these sorts of places. If we can decentralize that, yeah, you're right. There's no way to take them out. Kind of like, I guess, like the whole Napster versus BitTorrent thing that occurred, 15 years back or whatever, when music first started getting out there. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess now, what are your thoughts? I'd like to get your opinion. Traditionally, everyone, we joke about a 36 or a 40% market correction. That's just kind of like, that's just the nature of the beast. But I also think it's worth noting, this sort of a market correction is not, even though like no one ever expects a market correction, these have occurred at this time of the year, historically over the past couple of years, right? So, there's a good chance, especially with the holidays coming across in Asia, that we're going to be here, you think, Mark? Or what are your thoughts, Mark? Do you think, we'll be in this spot for at least another couple of weeks until, things settle down over in Asia?
It's really hard to say. Like I said, when we look at the short-term indicators, which are the technical indicators, it doesn't really tell us the future; it just tells us what's happening. Then we look at the fundamentals, which are like sound reasons. And so, from a fundamental standpoint, it looks super bullish. I mean, regulations are being changed as we speak to allow institutions to start pouring billions and trillions of dollars in. The technology is continuing to evolve. This year we'll probably start seeing a lot of it actually make its way into actual use. So fundamentally, it's super strong. Short term, technically, it's hard to say. I wouldn't be surprised to see it bounce around for another week or two. But I really thought by the end of this month, we would be a lot higher. Part of that maybe goes back to fundamentally. So, again, it's kind of a little bit U.S. centered, but the U.S. is kind of the financial hub of the world. So, they're not the financial hub of the world. I shouldn't say that. The dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So, because of that, it dominates a lot of what happens globally. But we had the first kind of entrance of Wall Street into the market back in December when they put the first Bitcoin futures. And so that was the CBOE and the CME. And so basically they bet on the market. They're not investing into the market. They bet as to which way it's going to go, like a horse race, who's going to get there first. So basically the bet was, the future was that Bitcoin would be about somewhere in the 19,000 range.
And what was Bitcoin at when this was early December, right? So where was Bitcoin at?
I think it was
like 12 or
I think it might have been in like the 15,000 range at the time.
Oh, okay.
And so the first of those futures contracts just expired. And the second set of them, the larger set, I think is set on the 26th. So a lot of people were really scared of that happening because they thought that people were going to manipulate the market and push the price down, manipulate the price down because of those shorts that they're doing on the market. And so maybe they were right. Maybe after the second set expires on the 26th, we'll see things start moving back in the uptrend. So that's a thought. Maybe a hopeful thought.
Well, let's talk about this one, because this is probably kind of a interesting topic, because now the market, it adds another dynamic to the market. And, Dr. V, I wonder if you have some input on this. But, from the layman's perspective, hey, Wall Street made a bet about a month ago, or back in December, that Bitcoin would be 19 grand.
Yeah.
Now, all those people making those bets at this point, I'm not saying it's not going to happen by the 26th, but more than likely if it does happen, we'll all have a lot of fun.
Right.
More than likely, the probability of Bitcoin being over 19 grand by the end of this week is not likely.
Right.
From where I sit right now, it's not likely, but.
Correct. So now what happens to the Wall Street, how does Wall Street feel this way? Or how does the derivative guy look at this, or the finance guy? Does his boss go to him and say, what the heck, you bet that Bitcoin be over 19 grand and you just, lost $1 million on this, we're out of this? Like, do they pull back? Do they?
No, I mean, again, I don't know the size of the market quite yet, but when you're working in the derivative space, I mean, it's all about leverage. So you're playing big money. You expect to have some loss. So no, I don't expect them to pull out. I expect them to work through this market, tease the market out, figure out the market. This is not going away. Again, I don't know the size of the market. I can look into that. But this losing a few $1 million or more is not scaring any Wall Street cats away. So
no, and actually, I mean, we could sit here and what if strategies all day, but I think she's absolutely right. I mean, this is peanuts for them.
This is peanuts.
This isn't even peanuts. This doesn't even qualify as a peanut. This is like, I mean, smaller than that for them. So I mean, the Bitcoin market is in the hundreds of billions. You know, what, a couple hundred billion. There's about $10 billion a day of trading going on, of volume, and the total futures was like 50 million.
Oh gosh, that's nothing. That's not. Listen, what's going to happen? You're going to have these traders trying to figure out this space, because when that big institutional money comes in, as Mark keeps referencing, they need to understand how these futures work in this new space so they can hedge their bets. So this is just chump change. This is monopoly money for them. They're just trying to, my humble opinion is they're trying to figure this space out so that they can leverage themselves and hedge themselves when the real money starts coming in. So this is not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I know those numbers sound really big. I mean, obviously, 50 million for me is gigantic. It's like, you know, but in the scheme of things, I mean, 50 million on a $200 billion market cap is just so tiny. That's why it's like hard for me to think that's really driving things, because it's just so small.
It's so small. Yeah, it's so small.
What's a reference point? Like usually like a healthy futures market or a healthy derivatives market, you know, on a $200 billion market cap, you know, like for example, I don't know, maybe Apple's the example or whatever, you know, what's a derivatives market compare on that, you know, when you—
The derivatives market can be many, many multiples. That's the thing. When you're dealing with leverage, it's often many, many more. We don't know the size of the derivatives market, and that's what, particularly the over-the-counter, where there's no real exchange, and it's just private party transactions, over-the-counter transactions. It's many, many times the size of the actual equity market cap, these market caps. So it's huge. So to Mark's point, to my initial point, I find it hard to believe that this is what's driving the market, because it's just so small. It's so small. I don't believe in trying to time markets. I mean, the research shows that we can't. I don't try to predict the markets. I believe in the fundamentals. And I know a lot of colleagues believe in technical analysis, because it does have value. It can tell you something about what's happening now. Trends we might expect to see somewhat short term, maybe next 30, 60 days, something like that. But fundamentally, you know, I think this is a buy and hold long-term strategy. This is a long hold. You go long and you hold it. You don't try to ride out the volatility. That's what's really causing these boom and bust cycles. People trying to time, you know, jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out. That supply and demand is what moves price. So I think this is a long play. That's my personal opinion. It's a long play. Get in and keep getting in dollar cost average in. You know, maybe buy on these dips and keep going.
Yeah,
investing in the right coins, investing in the right stuff, and holding it long.
So I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, she's absolutely right with that. I mean, it's we're investing in a technology that is not in use.
Right.
I mean, you know, if Instagram pops up, or, you know, Uber pops up, I mean, that's they're coming up with a new way to use an existing technology, so it gains market share and adoption instantly. But this blockchain technology is a technology of the future.
Right.
It's not being used today. And so really the way you have to look at it is like, if I went back to 1995 and invested in the internet, nobody was buying anything online until 2005. But yet these companies were formed in 1995, 10 years really before the market had started moving on this. And so, I talk to people a lot that I'm like, oh, look, this blockchain company's going to do this and they're going to do this. And they're like, so I can go and do this right now? It's like, no, you can't go do it right now. But this is what they're building. And eventually it will be there. So it's long term. I mean, you have to think long term. And all this choppiness sorts itself out when you look over this long.
Over the long term, yes, I agree. And when you go to these conferences, there are many conferences on crypto and the blockchain. This is what they're talking about. They're really not talking about the coin, and they're not really talking about. They're talking some about returns because it's obviously sensational, right? And there's crazy returns, and boom bust or whatever. They're talking about the technology and all the applications down the line for this technology and how it's really going to just transform many things that we do. I mean, everyday mundane transactions, how it can transform those spaces. So that's what I believe in. That's what I buy into. And that's where I think the real return will be down the line. You get rid of that choppiness when you look over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So let's get maybe into some more specifics. I think last week there was a bit of an update, right? We had our friends over at BitConnect, or I wouldn't say friends.
Your friends?
People.
None of my friends.
None of my.
Had some controversy that they had to deal with. Boyce actually was talking to me, and he thinks it's kind of, he believes that the recent crash, or not the crash, the recent correction also had something to do with that because literally, as the market was coming down, people wanted to take their money out. That was interesting. Speaking of, ICOs, I'm going to share this one with you, and, let's talk about future possibilities. So now, do you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
We have the organic token movement. And Banana Coin is going to tie their token against the price of a kilogram of bananas.
Okay.
Why? I don't know.
I would ask myself why.
But yeah, I mean, they have sold. People are going bananas over Banana Coin.
I knew that was coming, Charles. I knew that was coming.
3 million tokens sold at. Geez, I'm kind of curious how much money they've raised. This is actually,
0.5 USD. Cut that number in half.
So they've got like $1.5 million for bananas.
That's a lot of bananas.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Wow.
That's pretty.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, and, I just say why. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. On another note.
Why? Because you can. Obviously, I mean, because people can, and they do it, and they're raising millions. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
And on the other hand, you've got Telegram talking about an ICO. Looks like they're going to target a $2 billion ICO. So I'm going to just stop my screen share for now,
Yeah, that one makes sense a little bit. I think Telegram is a massive, one of the largest messaging apps in the world. And so, if they could build in some sort of token structure, they could get, I don't know, hundreds of millions of people using it right away. But I still ask why, why couldn't they just incorporate with any of the 1,300 ones that are already out there, But yeah, they're smashing it. I mean, they're smashing every record, and they're raising a lot of money for who knows what reason.
Wow. That's definitely quite something on that. So between bananas or a Telegram ICO.
And everything in between.
Yeah. Jeez.
Everything in between. I just see a lot more money coming into this space over the next few years. I mean, I tend to follow loosely what the IMF does and what they say and what their projections are. I think it is fairly significant. They're projecting a 4% 4% global growth. I mean, that is sizable. I mean, that's a
Well,
lot
and
of
maybe,
capital.
and Dr. V, I unfortunately don't have, your background in global economic policy or anything like that. I mean, I studied economics in
Yeah,
college.
sure, yeah.
I mean, what the heck does a 4% IMF growth mean, right? I look at this, you know, I'm used to the crypto markets, right? If I don't see 100% growth in a week, I'm like, yeah, this coin's
Well, I
boring.
mean, well, so
I'm kidding.
right. Yeah, so you're one of those. Okay, Charles. No, I mean, just think about the globe. Just think about the GDP of the global economy. I mean, put it in those terms. The GDP of the global economy. 4% of that. That's a lot of freaking money. That's a lot of freaking money. So if so to sort of put it into context, the Federal Reserve wants the U.S. to grow. Well, we expect prices to grow roughly 2%. We're not there yet. We would love GDP to be, somewhere between 2 and somewhere around there. 4% in these developing countries, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money in global. So that's a lot of money that's potentially going to come into our capital markets, including this space. And again, we haven't seen this type of growth.
Now, what's fueling this growth?
8, 9, 10 years, huh?
Now, what fuels this sort of growth? Like, is it because people are digging more coal out of the ground? Are we finding new reserves of oil?
Yeah, it could be a function of government slacking off of regulation around the natural resources in these countries around the world. Countries developing, innovating, moving their economy from a more agricultural-based economy to more technological-based economy. It's innovation. It's change. It's creating new growth opportunities in economies where they didn't otherwise exist. So this creates growth. This creates jobs. This creates more people coming out of poverty. And with all the talk around crypto, I mean, it's and shaky currencies of these other countries, this could be a great opportunity, a good trend, great opportunity for crypto.
Wow. I mean, I know Mark has mentioned, I think, Mark, you thought the developing country aspect would be good for another, what did you say? You said like 5 trillion or something like that?
Well, I mean, it's about 12 trillion. So, I mean, yeah, I actually just said that again earlier. I mean, there's 2 billion adults, globally that have no access to banks. That's adults. And then you have like the emerging markets. So we're seeing like countries like Zimbabwe or Venezuela, like their currencies are falling so fast, they're jumping into digital currencies like Bitcoin. And so, I mean, just those markets are 12 trillion. So, if we get 1 or 2% of that, I mean, it's massive.
Wow. Yeah. If that goes, no, definitely. So, I've also seen, internationally, we started talking about regulatory stuff. You're talking about, I think you mentioned India or something like that, Mark. There's more regulation going on there now, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's making headlines, right? They're looking at more ways to regulate it, and they're going to try and block access to the bank. So you understand, right, that like no one can shut Bitcoin down, but like in China, what they do. So in China, like Google's illegal, Facebook's illegal. So what they do is they block access to it. They can't shut it down, obviously, but they could create firewalls within their country to prevent computers being able to connect into it. And so that's kind of what we're seeing in India. They're trying to block access to, some of these Bitcoin exchanges and stuff like that. So I don't know what that means. I think I would, if I have to go out and put my opinion, I think, all of these countries will figure out how they want to regulate it, and then it will move forward. I think their knee-jerk reaction is to basically try and stop it as best they can until they can figure it out.
Until they understand, what it is. Yeah.
Well, not what it is, how they can get their piece.
Well, yeah, better said.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, on a news angle perspective, I saw this article. I'm going to share my screen again. Looks like the consumer protection agencies, this banking issue is a thing, right? It's like from Israel to Australia, And now in Portugal, the largest consumer association is calling out the local bank for trying to do the same. So what is this? It's called DECO, the Portuguese Association for Consumer Protection, has come out against the actions of the fourth largest bank in Portugal, saying that, hey, you can't stop bank transfers from your personal accounts into a Bitcoin exchange. And interestingly enough, the bank has actually implemented this as policy. Huh.
Yeah, and then we have last week the big news was out of South Korea, and they were saying that they wanted to, they were going to crack down on exchanges. There was news that came out that they were raiding exchanges and stuff, which turned out to be all fake news. But now South Korea, some lawmakers in South Korea are actually investigating about potentially bringing charges for South Korean government officials manipulating the market with that news.
Oh, so maybe they were doing that to get the market to drop.
Yeah, and so now they're even trying to pass a law in South Korea that all lawmakers have to disclose their cryptocurrency holdings.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Well, so it's this back and forth, and it's new, and it's new, it's cutting edge, and again, right? That's why we have the potential to make so much money, because we're getting in so early. But because of that, we have to deal with all these problems. Yeah. If you want to wait until the coast is clear, you're not going to have all these problems, but you're not going to make the huge returns either.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Great. Well, we've been on for actually looks like close to an hour, so it's probably getting close time to wrap things up. Any parting thoughts, Mark, on your end, or?
My parting thoughts would be, we obviously went over a lot of stuff. I would just basically go back and kind of second what Dr. V said. You got to think long term. I think the short term view is going to provide stress. And it's not realistic. This is a long-term gain, and if you look over a long time view, like I said, all this choppiness sorts itself out. So just keep telling yourself, this is 1995. I have to wait till 2005. I'm investing in technology that's not there yet. And then as I always say that if you're uncomfortable seeing your position losing down to the point where it's stressing you out and you're losing sleep or whatever, then you have too much involved. You have too much invested. Wait for a bounce, take some money out. Other than that, shut the computer off, man. You'd be better off not looking at your portfolio for the next couple of weeks. I mean, why even look at it? You're not going to take money out anyway. So just shut it off and come back in a couple of weeks or a month.
Yeah, that's the same thing we say to equity investors. If you're watching your portfolio every day, you're stressing too much. You're stressing too much. You're creating an undue stress, unnecessary stress. If you have a buy and hold strategy, just set it and forget it. Maybe check it once a week, check it once a month, but let it be. Let the markets do what they're going to do, and just ride it out.
Yep.
Wow. I guess this goes back to the internet. I didn't realize. I mean, was it really 2005 before people really started buying things on the internet?
In a sizable, meaningful amount.
Yeah. I mean, you could be right. I mean, I'm just kind of going back.
I've told the story many times, and Charles, I'm sure you've heard me say it many times. I'll give the super quick version of it. But in 2001, so the .com thing crashed in 2000. So a quick timeline. About 93, 94, you had a couple guys in their garages messing around with their computers, getting them to talk. By 1995, you had the first public launch of Netscape. That's when institutional came in.
Wow.
From 1995 till about 1998, you had the institutional money, the venture capitalists blow it up. From 98, the public started getting in, and it just shot crazy from 98 to 2000. In 2000, the market crashed 90%. That was in 2000. In 2001, the whole thing had imploded. I thought, I see the future. This internet thing is going to be massive. I'm going to start an internet company selling products online in 2001. And I was selling, I set up this e-commerce store. It was not easy. There was no shopping carts. I had to build it from scratch. And at the time, I was running ads in magazines because there was nobody online to really market to at the time. And at the time in 2001, it's hard to imagine, but in 2001, I was the only .com running in the entire magazine. Everything in 2001 was mail order, where you had to actually cut it out with scissors and mail a check in. That was 2001. And I went to these brands and I said, hey, I built this store. I want to sell your products on my website. And they laughed at me. They told me nobody would ever buy anything online. And worse than that, they wouldn't even take my money. Like, okay, so I'm a crazy guy. At least take my money. They wouldn't even let me sell their products online. So that was 2001. So it was about 2005 until it really started gaining adoption and we started seeing traction.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, because I'm looking back, right? In 1996, I was programming, Perl and CGI, in high school for a guy, nearby. And even though I was in it, I guess even with myself, I was still buying stuff. I wasn't buying stuff online probably till mid to late 2000s, until middle into the first decade of 2000s. I was a phone guy, we had our business and, we were selling to tech people. And heck, I don't even think our business has still really gotten an e-commerce cart running. We're still running, doing mail order or phone order, because it's B2B and everything on that front. So,
So I was selling stuff online in 2001, but it wasn't really till it started gaining mass market adoption until about 2005. Now, that was about a 10-year gap. Every technology cycle has a faster adoption rate. So I believe that this market will adopt much faster. We already have the internet as groundwork. So I think we'll probably do it in about a third of the time. That's my guess, but we'll see.
No, great. Wow. Nice. Any final thoughts from you, Dr. V? Or
no, I think Mark summed it up well. He took the words right out of my mouth. Buy and hold. Do your research, as with anything you do, as with any market, right? Equity market, crypto market, dating market. Do your research, right? And make sure you're getting into the right stuff.
So you're saying no day trading in the dating market?
No day trading in the dating market. I catch something you don't want.
No, that's funny. So so for everyone who's still on, thanks for tuning in. There's actually, I think now with the market correction, a opportunity if you've just been kind of watching and learning by the wayside, to kind of get back in, right? There's been, anywhere from a 20 to 40% correction since the peak in early January. And what's going on is over the weekend, we're going to be hosting another online crypto summit where we'll be talking through, the actual, breaking down the strategies that, Mark and myself and, the whole team uses when we go and select altcoins and, how to buy and what works well and what doesn't. And if you haven't heard about it, you definitely should tune in. Last time when we did this, it was back in late November. And we released kind of two nice little nuggets for people who attended. We told people about Ripple, and we also talked about Stellar Lumens. Back at the time, Ripple was sitting at around 20 cents, and Stellar Lumens was sitting at around 8 cents. So, this was just something we gave away for free. And for anyone who had tuned in on it, if you had gotten Ripple at 22 cents or Stellar Lumens at 8.5 cents, even with the correction, you're up 500%. And if you maybe took some profits at the height, like how we talked about, you would have realized 1,000% plus gainer on Ripple. So definitely check out our upcoming web class. If you don't know the address, you can sign up for it at bitcoin.theblackbusinessschool.com. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You can go register for the web class. It's free. And anyways, if you just still want to continue the discussion, you can join our crypto investing group. There's over, I think, 55,000 people in it right now, and there's lots of great things going on. So thanks again, Mark, for hopping on. Thanks, Dr. V. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon. Talk to you
All right,
later.
Great one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.